ndị Igbo ekene m ụnụ. Ezigbote iwe na-ewe m. Achọrọ m ịgwa ụnụ ihe anyị chọrọ ịgwa ụnụ n'asụsụ Igbo, maka na anyị nwa bụ ndị Igbo ka ihe amalịtara. Kedu ihe mere na anyị nwa bụ ndị Igbo achọrọ ihe ọma? Kedu ife pụtara na ihe ọma na-asọ anyị nsọ? Onye nata ana Igbo be nna ya na-emezie a na-ehuri anya ụfụ. Negodu na Ebuka Obi, Evangelist Ebuka Obi wepụtara onwe n'ọrụ ọma dị iche iche ọ na-arụ n'ala Igbo, ya ka ndị Igbo be anyị enweghị ike inye ya nkwado kama ọ bụrụ ịgba mgbe okpuru na-akpọrọ ya ndị EFCC. Kai, ihe ọjọọ ajọkọkwa, ihe ọjọọ dị njọ. Onye na-akpọrọ Ebuka Obi, onye na-aga ngiri Ebuka Obi ọp na-akpọrọ ndị EFCC ka ebe eme ya interrogate. Ka ife problem ụnyaahụ ya ka ọ bụ na ka ha chọwa ụzọ o si enweta ego. Ọ bụgoro onye kpụrụ isi, ọ bụgoro onye adị afọ ụzọ, the kind of congregation Ebuka Obi na-control godu onye nwere uche ọ ya ajụgba kele ebe ego esi abịa. O ji abụzi onwe investment omenala Igbo be anyị ji abakwara anyị nwa bụ ndị Igbo ji na-agba ya mgbe okpuru. Dịgoro na video just watch kere na video na ka ụnụ ghọta ihe na-agwa ọnụ. Watch kere na video ka ụnụ ghọta ihe na-agwa ọnụ.
Evangelist Ebuka Obi, invited by EFCC for interrogation in Abuja. Watch this video till the end, because what you are about to hear will shock you. Don't forget to drop your opinion in the comment section. The moment Evangelist Ebuka Obi stepped inside the church, the crowd erupted with excitement. The members rushed to greet him as usual. He exchanged greetings with the members. He walked straight to the altar. He knelt down and prayed for a few minutes. His face was strong, as if it was loaded with burdens. Evangelist Ebuka Obi did not come to the altar to preach. He did not come to raise offerings or declare miracles. He came with a burden, and he carried it openly. From the moment he picked the microphone, his members sensed something was wrong. His voice was steady, but the atmosphere was heavy. He went straight to the point. He told them that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, invited him to Abuja for interrogation. There was no exaggeration, no drama, just facts. According to him, the invitation was not casual. It was official, serious. He said he honored it and traveled to Abuja as requested. He stood before investigators who were not interested in prophecy or testimonies. They were interested in money, how it came, how it moved, and what it was used for. He told his members that the EFCC questioned him about his source of income. Not one source. All of them. They asked how he managed to raise the kind of money being used for the refinery project in Anambra State. They asked how a religious leader could fund something of that magnitude. They asked who was involved, how long it had been planned, and where the capital originated from. Then they moved to Zion City. According to him, the investigators asked about the hotels, about the claim of over 100 hotels within Zion City. They asked how they were built, how they were funded, and who owned them legally. They asked if they were personal assets, ministry assets, or something else entirely. He said the questions did not stop there. They asked about the free hospital in Anambra State. They asked how it was built, how it was equipped, and how it was sustained. They asked how a hospital could run for free in a country where even basic healthcare is expensive. Then they asked about the schools. Schools in Lagos State. Schools in other states across Nigeria. They asked how many existed, who paid the staff, who paid the rent, who bought the equipment, and how fees, or lack of fees, were managed. According to him, the EFCC told him they had traced his bank transactions. Not rumors. Not assumptions. Transactions. They followed the flow of money across accounts, across years. They compared income with projects. They examined deposits, withdrawals, transfers, and patterns. He told his members that nothing was overlooked. Every question, according to him, carried weight. He made one thing very clear to the congregation: he was not arrested. He was not detained. He was not humiliated. But he was investigated. Then he said the words that shattered the room. According to him, the EFCC informed him that the investigation was still ongoing and that until further notice, he is not allowed to travel out of the country. At that moment, the church went silent. No movement. For many of his members, that sentence was more painful than an arrest. The idea that their spiritual leader was now restricted, watched, and officially under investigation felt unreal. This was not a rumor from outside. It was coming directly from him. He told them he answered all questions presented to him. He told them he cooperated fully. But he did not promise them that everything was over. He did not pretend that it was a small issue. Instead, he stood there, honest, exposed, and human. He said investigations do not mean guilt, but they are not something anyone should take lightly. He said when authorities begin to ask questions at that level, emotions do not change outcomes, only truth and evidence do. As he spoke, faces in the congregation began to change. Some members held their heads. Some stared at the altar in disbelief. Others felt their hearts sink as the reality settled in. The man they saw as a symbol of divine success was now standing in the middle of official scrutiny. Just a painful truth spoken plainly. Evangelist Ebuka Obi ended the announcement without asking for sympathy. He did not ask them to fight anyone. He did not blame enemies. He did not turn it into a spiritual battle. He simply told them what happened. And in that moment, many of his members realized something heartbreaking. This was no longer just about faith or vision. It was about questions that demanded answers, and a journey that had entered an uncertain chapter. Evangelist Ebuka Obi told his members that the interrogation did not happen by accident. According to him, it was not sudden. It was not random. It was not just about money or projects. He said it was the result of envy, jealousy, and silent battles that had been going on for a long time. He stood before the congregation and said it plainly. He told them that pastors, priests, and native doctors who had been fighting him were the ones who reported him to the EFCC.
No hesitaschen. No επάλεγοι.
According to him, these were people who could not explain the growth of his ministry. People who could not accept the influence, the crowd, and the speed at which things were happening. People who once smiled, but secretly watched with bitterness. He said envy does not always shout. Sometimes it files reports. He told his members that for years, attacks had come from different directions: spiritual, verbal, and silent. He said some prayed against him openly, while others worked quietly behind the scenes. He said some could not challenge him publicly, so they chose another route. According to him, when they saw the refinery project, they became angry. When they saw Zion City expanding, they became uncomfortable. When they saw free hospitals and schools rising, they became threatened. He told his members that instead of asking questions directly, they went to authorities. They reported me, he said, not because of proof, but because of hatred. According to him, these people could not accept that a man they once looked down on was now building projects that many institutions could not attempt. He said their frustration turned into jealousy, and their jealousy turned into action. He told his members that some of these people had once claimed spiritual authority over him. Others claimed traditional power. Others wore religious titles. But when they could not stop the progress, they chose accusation. He said the EFCC invitation was not the beginning of the fight, it was the result of a long one. As he spoke, the atmosphere in the church shifted. Members listened closely, some shaking their heads slowly, others whispering prayers. For many of them, this explanation answered questions they had been afraid to ask. It gave a face to the pain, a reason for the pressure. Evangelist Ebuka Obi told them something that shocked many. He said when people cannot compete, they complain. He said when people cannot destroy openly, they accuse secretly. He told them that envy does not want truth, it wants delay, restriction, and shame. According to him, the goal of those who reported him was not justice. It was to slow him down, to embarrass him, to make him look suspicious, to shake the faith of his members. He said they wanted him to look guilty even if he was innocent. He paused and then said something that made the room tense. He said he is not afraid. He told his members that the God he serves sees everything. He said the same God who lifted him is watching those who plotted against him. He said no report can stand when God is involved. He told them clearly, those who reported him will be defeated. Not by noise. Not by protest. But by truth. He said investigations will expose lies just as much as they examine facts. He said those who thought they were smart will be put to shame when their plans fail. He went further. He said the same people who wanted to silence him will be punished by the consequences of their own actions. He said they dug a pit, but they will be the ones to fall into it. He said their intentions will turn against them. As he spoke, some members began to cry, not from fear, but from anger and pain. The idea that people who claim religion or spiritual power could act out of jealousy hurt deeply. He told them not to fight anyone. He told them not to insult anyone. He told them not to respond with hatred. Instead, he told them to stand firm and let God handle the battle. He said this chapter of investigation is temporary, but the shame of those who plotted will be permanent. He reminded them that every great movement attracts enemies. He said growth exposes hidden hatred. He said progress makes enemies reveal themselves. According to him, this was not the first time people tried to stop him, but it would be the last. He ended the chapter with a strong declaration. He said, "They may report me, but they cannot stop me." He said God will clear his name. He said the work will continue. He said those who stood against him will watch him rise higher. And as he said those words, the congregation sat in heavy silence, torn between pain and hope, anger and faith, believing that this battle, too, would end with those who plotted against him being put to shame. By the time Evangelist Ebuka Obi finished speaking, the congregation was no longer the same. The room felt heavier than it had at the beginning of the service. What started as shock had now turned into deep emotion, raw, painful, and overwhelming. This was no longer just a story about interrogation. It had become a story about loyalty, fear, betrayal, and faith under pressure. As his words sank in, members began to react in ways that could not be controlled. Some people cried openly, their shoulders shaking as they wept. Others sat completely still, staring at the altar as if their bodies refused to move. A few covered their faces, unable to process the weight of what they had heard. For many of them, this was the first time they felt truly afraid for their spiritual leader. Not afraid of rumors. Not afraid of gossip. Afraid of systems. Afraid of power. Afraid of what envy could do when it wears official clothing. Evangelist Ebuka Obi watched his members carefully. He could see the confusion in their eyes. He could see the pain. He could see the anger building quietly inside them. Some of them had followed him for years. They had witnessed growth, testimonies, and projects that gave them pride and hope. Now, those same achievements were being questioned, and it felt deeply unfair. Some members began whispering prayers out loud. Others clenched their fists, struggling to control their emotions. A few could not stop shaking their heads, as if rejecting the reality of the situation. The idea that people who claim spiritual authority, pastors, priests, native doctors, could report him out of jealousy broke something inside the congregation. To them, this was not just an attack on one man. It felt like an attack on everything they believed in. Evangelist Ebuka Obi raised his voice slightly, not in anger, but in authority, and told them to calm down. He said something that surprised many. He told them not to hate those who reported him. That instruction was hard to hear. He said hatred would only make them lose focus. He said anger would not change the process. He said the battle was not theirs to fight physically or emotionally. He told them that what hurts the most is not the investigation, but betrayal from people who understand spiritual language yet choose envy. That statement broke more hearts. Some members cried harder. Others whispered, "God forbid." He reminded them that every major assignment attracts resistance. He said when light becomes too bright, those who thrive in darkness feel exposed. He said the reporting was not a sign of failure. It was a sign that the work had grown beyond what some people could tolerate. Then he addressed the fear directly. He said he knows many of them are afraid of what might happen next. afraid of arrest, afraid of embarrassment, afraid of disgrace, afraid of seeing the ministry attacked publicly. He did not dismiss those fears. Instead, he acknowledged them. He said fear is natural when the future is uncertain. He said even strong faith feels weak sometimes when reality hits hard. He said anyone pretending not to feel pain in moments like this is lying. That honesty cut deep, because it made the situation real. He told them he does not know how long the investigation will last. He told them he does not know what questions will still be asked. He told them he cannot control the timeline. And that silence after those words was painful. But then he said something that changed the atmosphere again. He said, "What I know is this: truth does not need to hide." He said if envy brought him to this place, truth will bring him out. He said if jealousy opened the door to investigation, clarity will close it. He said the same God who saw the plotting saw the reporting, and he also sees the process. At that moment, something shifted. Members who were crying began to listen more closely. Fear slowly gave way to resolve. Pain began to mix with determination. The congregation was no longer just heartbroken, they were united. Some members stood up without being asked. Others raised their hands quietly, not in celebration, but in commitment. Evangelist Ebuka Obi told them the days ahead may not be easy. He said there may be more pressure, more waiting, and more uncomfortable moments. He said silence may be required when they want to speak. Restraint may be required when they want to react. He said loyalty will be tested. That sentence hit hard, because everyone knew it was true. He asked them not to abandon truth for fear. He asked them not to lose focus because of uncertainty. He asked them not to let the actions of envious people rewrite what they had witnessed with their own eyes. As the service came to an end, there was no rush to leave. People stayed back. Some hugged each other tightly. Some knelt quietly. Some wiped tears and sat in silence. The atmosphere was not one of defeat, it was one of wounded strength. They were hurt. They were shaken. But they were still standing. As members slowly walked out of the hall, their faces carried a new seriousness. Conversations were few. Smiles were gone. But there was something else present, loyalty forged by pressure. That day did not end with celebration. It ended with resolve. Resolve to wait. Resolve to trust. Resolve to believe that even when envy opens doors to pain, truth will eventually close them. And as the lights dimmed and the hall emptied, one thing was clear: this chapter had scarred them, but it had also bound them together in a way comfort never could. I speak to you today not just as your spiritual leader, but as a man standing with you in truth and sincerity. I know your hearts are heavy. I know many of you are worried, confused, and even afraid. Some of you are asking questions you never thought you would ask. Some of you are feeling pain you never expected to feel in this place. I want you to know this: your feelings are valid. This season is not easy, and I will not insult your intelligence by pretending that it is. But hear me clearly. This moment is not the end of our journey. What we are facing now does not cancel what God has already done. Investigations do not erase destiny. Questions do not destroy purpose. Waiting does not mean God has stepped away from us. Sometimes, waiting is the process through which truth becomes undeniable. I want you to remain calm. Fear is natural, but do not let it take control of your faith. Do not allow uncertainty to rewrite your convictions. What you have seen, what you have experienced, and what you know to be true cannot be erased by pressure or scrutiny. Understand this: truth does not hide. Truth does not run. Truth stands. This is not a season for anger. It is not a season for fighting anyone. It is not a season for responding with bitterness. It is a season for patience, wisdom, and endurance. Some battles are not won by noise, but by standing still and allowing God to work. I ask you to stay united. Division will only weaken us, but unity will strengthen us. Do not let fear separate you from one another. Do not let confusion turn you against each other. Stand together in love, prayer, and understanding. This is also a season that will test loyalty. Not loyalty to a man, but loyalty to truth. Do not abandon what you know because of what you fear. Do not let temporary pressure make you forget permanent purpose. I will be honest with you. I do not know how long this process will take. I do not know every question that will still be asked. But I know this: God is faithful. He sees everything. Nothing is hidden from him. And no matter how loud accusations may sound, truth will always speak louder in the end. Remain prayerful, but also remain patient. Pray not only for victory, but for strength. Pray not only for speed, but for clarity. Pray not only for me, but for yourselves, that your hearts will not grow weary or bitter. What was meant to slow us down will not stop us. What was meant to bring shame will end in clarity. What was meant to confuse will produce understanding. Hold your peace. Keep your faith. Guard your hearts. This chapter will pass, and when it does, we will stand stronger, not because we were untouched, but because we endured. God is still in control.
Ndị Igbo be anyị na-eburu ego na-emezi obodo ndị ọzọ ije ugwu Awụsa ifu investment ndị be anyị na-eme ebe ahụ, ije ana Yoruba ifu nke ha na-eme ebe ahụ, ma nwa obele a ga-alụ n'ala Igbo be anyị ụzọ anatụ kere ife bụ nsogbu anyị, kere ife bụ iwu a, kere ife bụ emela anyị ihe eme ụbọchị anọ nke ya na-atụrụ na-asị na egbe buru na ibe agbatuo ya anya ọfụ dọkwa mmanwụ ka anyị chegharịa na ọ dụrọ mma. Ọhịa na-emesịa ụfọdụ ndị chi ime investment eburu ejebe n'obodo ndị ọzọ ga mee ya ịkọzibe ebe nna gị anyị obere onye kpata gị ego enye m ebe o si nweta ego anya ụfọdụ o kwesịrị ịdị otu ahụ.